As a creative aspect, TV is one of the best things that we do as a species. Along with music and film and books, they bring out the best creative of all of us. They entertain and they bring so much joy to many. They invoke emotion and enable us to feel things that we bury sometimes deep down. That's what this podcast is for. Welcome to A Million Little TV Shows. This is what I call the breakdown while I break down. Each week I will go through a different TV show, a different season of that TV show, and different episodes of that show. And I will break down not only emotions, but I will break down stories from my life, and let you know why these TV shows mean so much to me, and why I believe that they are some of the most important shows out there. This podcast is here to highlight a lot of smaller TV shows, or TV shows that don't really get a platform, because we know of a bunch of TV shows that get a multitude of different podcasts. Ted Lasso, Game of Thrones, The Office, they've all got several podcasts out there analysing all types of different things. But there's not many out there for the little guy, and that's what I'm trying to highlight. So each week I will go through a different show, different seasons, different episodes, and I will go across all different kinds of genres and different countries to bring you what I believe is some of the best TV out there. So I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you're here for this journey. And if you've watched the shows before and you wanted to come here and get an analysis on them and have someone go through them and pick out bits that you might have enjoyed, then I'm glad you are here. If, however, you have never watched the show and you just want to come and have someone talk in your ear about different TV shows, I'm glad you are here. But I hope that it inspires some people to go and seek out these TV shows. They deserve to be watched. They were made with love and care, and they are the same as this podcast, made with love and care. I am your host, Mike, and I will take you through every adventure, every horror, every piece of drama, and I hope that you enjoy the show. Hello there, and welcome back to this A Million Little TV Shows podcast. This is now episode 8 of season 10, and today we're going to be concluding Friends from College. Now, the first few episodes of this really made me laugh, and I don't doubt that the second half of this season is going to make me laugh as well, because I've watched it, I know how good it is, and I knew as soon as I did watch it, I was going to have to do it for this podcast, because it is hilarious. I really enjoy it. I think it's so funny, and it's just one of those shows that really mixes humour with also, really serious subjects, and it's so interesting to watch the dynamic between these characters, and, one of the things that I always see in real life, when sometimes people are at their lowest, sometimes they just need to get it out, get that grieving out, or get those feelings out, and then they just need to laugh. And I feel that this show proves that. From one minute they are having a really hard time of things, especially the two lead characters, Ethan and Lisa. They're trying to have a child. But as we learned in the last episode, the IVF treatment that they were going through was just an absolute shit show. When they actually managed to do the injection, it was way past the time that they were meant to be able to, and, it was a real stressful time for them both. And of course, going through IVF is going to be a stressful time anyway. So I just want to get back into these episodes, and I cannot wait to do that. These were so fun. First of all, thank you for being here, but I think we should get on with the episode. This is Friends from College, Season 1, Episodes 5 to 8. Episode 5, Party Bus. So the episode starts with the fact that Lisa is depressed. With all the IVF treatment and the fact that she was so hyped up about having this child, it's turned out that they're not even pregnant. They've been staying with Marianne for a while now, and obviously they've saved up all this money to try and get this treatment done, but it turns out it hasn't been successful. Marianne, however, is trying to help them see the lighter side of this. She gets them to light one of those lanterns where they just float off into the sky. I suppose it's kind of a ritual to release this loved one, and Marianne's trying to just perk them up a little bit, make them see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully this will be the start of it. They can carry on and they can try again, and hopefully next time it will take. But obviously it's a bit too raw for them at this particular moment, and Miriam sometimes isn't great at reading signs. Eventually she leaves, they release the lantern, and the lantern and the lantern floats off in what is meant to be a really sweet, significant moment. However, it's a comedy show after all, and of course the lantern comes down and it lights a tree on fire across the road. So Ethan and Lisa just kind of scarper back inside. The fact that Lisa can't get pregnant has really taken a toll on her, and she just seems sort of zombified. Eventually, she manages to get up and go to work, and Ethan asks her, look, do you want to do something fun? Do you want to go on a wine tasting tour? Which I did a couple while I was in Canada, and I absolutely loved them. They were so much fun. But Ethan is going all out. He's trying to make a big event of this, and he wants to have sunset in the bay at the end of the night so that it can be sort of a whole day thing and have a really sweet moment at the end of it. He's not just taking Lisa, he's taking the whole gang, and he ends up hiring a party bus. And it's one of those full-on stripper pole, gaudy lights inside, bad decoration, and when they all first see it, they all think, oh my god, this is horrendous. But once they get into it, once they get drinking and the music's flowing and, they're all just having a good time, they end up really getting into it. And it looks quite fun in all fairness. It's not really my thing, but I found it quite fun when I was watching it. As they go from place to place, and obviously they're getting drunker and drunker as they go along, we see problems starting to develop between Lisa and Ethan. The more and more he pushes to actually end the night where he wants to end it, and as much as he's pushing to get back on schedule, Lisa just wants to have fun. She just wants to be where she is. She's not bothered about the schedule. She just wants to get drunk. And at one point when she starts going on about having McDonald's, she ends up running away from the whole party, and Ethan is the only one who follows her. Eventually when he catches her, she's just like, I wish she'd just left me at home. She's so in her own head and depressed, and I mean, you would be. And Ethan is just trying to understand, but obviously he's not doing a great job of it. He's trying to help his wife out. He's trying to entertain her, but it's not what she needs right now. She just wants to be at home. She just wants to be in his arms. And so eventually Lisa kind of sees that his heart was in the right place, and they end up going back to the party. Ethan, however, heads to the bar, and when he gets there, he starts talking to Sam. Sam essentially tells him, look, everything that's going on between us, we need to stop because it's not fair. We need to take a step back from this because it's not fair on anybody. No one's benefiting from any of this, and it would just make sense. Ethan kind of convinces her that, well, actually, I was hoping we'd be able to do our usual thing. And by the end of the conversation, even though Sam has told her therapist that she was going to stop the whole affair, now it seems she seems convinced again that Ethan is the one to continue this with. Eventually, after Miriam nearly crashes the bus because the bus driver that they actually hired ended up getting drunk as well with them, they head off towards McDonald's after all. The six of them, Ethan, Lisa, Sam, Max, Miriam, and Nick, all sit outside the van, or this bus, and they're all eating Mackies. However, it's only then that Max actually realises that they've left Felix behind. They head back up to where they left him, and when Felix tells him, look, you change around these guys. I don't know why, I don't know what you're thinking when you do it, but you do. And you left me today. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it. And I think that maybe we should take a break for now and maybe revisit this down the line. But right now, I can't be with you. You're just not the right person when you're with these people. So you need to work out your priorities. The next day, we see a hotel room and in walks Sam. She hangs around for a bit and Ethan doesn't actually come. After a while, she ends up texting him just saying that she couldn't actually make it because she was at work and work had got really busy. Ethan, however, is laid in bed and he is cuddling up with Lisa because it's all she's really needed for the last few days. None of this partying, none of this ridiculousness, just him and her convalescing together over a potential loss. Episode 6, Second Wedding. So, as the title suggests, the whole gang are going to a wedding of a guy that they used to go to university with. However, when they get there, they find out that one of their old classmates, a guy called Paul Dobkin, is there, and he's better known by his moniker, the Party Dog. And it turns out that previously he and Sam used to hook up back in college. So obviously, straight away, he comes over and he targets her. It seems that he's still very interested in her, and she seems very interested in him. Obviously, she's just been stood up by Ethan in the previous episode, so we know that whatever's going on between those two, she's not in a good place with it. The party dog is played by Seth Rogen, and it's kind of an atypical role for him in this regard. I find Seth Rogen grating at times, but I suppose that a lot of people do find his kind of humour funny, so, each to their own. He's not my cup of tea, and even in this episode, I don't think he fits in well with the cast, but I think the rest of the cast work well around him and his abilities, as limited as they are, as far as I'm concerned, but hey, that's just my opinion. And so as they sit on the table, it turns out that Marianne's not actually been invited to this wedding, or she hasn't RSVP'd at least. So when she gets there, she has to misplace some people on their table because the bride and groom didn't know she was coming and therefore didn't set a table for her. So she ends up sitting there with the rest of her friends, and throughout the whole episode, Ethan is trying to compete with the party dog. And so he wants to call this table that they're all on the party table. However, straight away he goes to get his drinks, and as he does, Sam comes with him, but as soon as they get to the bar, she's taken away by the party dog, and he takes her to his table, and Ethan is put out by this. Throughout the whole episode, Ethan is basically chasing his tail and trying to get close to Sam throughout the whole thing. Anytime that he sees her laughing with Paul, the party dog, she looks like she's actually enjoying herself for the first time in a while. Her husband's not come to this thing, and she's actually getting some decent attention. She's not actually just a quick backroom fumble in this case. She's out in the open and she can flirt with this guy as much as she wants. It doesn't matter. But Ethan is just jealous throughout. He keeps trying to play the fool. He keeps trying to grab Sam's attention, even though Lisa is there with him, which obviously isn't great. And it would seem that her attention is being taken away by Nick at some points, but she's more sort of a wingman for Nick. Throughout this wedding, he is basically eyeing up some of the bridesmaids, and every time that he is, she's always kind of on his shoulder like a little devil, as if to say, yeah, get yourself in there, boy. But we can see that there is an affection between the two of them. Max, however, is there on his own, and when he ends up giving a speech, the core group think that it's going to be an absolute disaster. However, he manages to pull it off really well. The speech that he does is kind of funny. It's more of a takedown than anything else, but he does do it quite well, and he does deliver it really well. And I think that helps with the actual speech, because it's not a great speech, but the delivery of it is really engaging, and I think that's what makes it what it is. But throughout the episode, the main focus is on Ethan and Sam. Eventually, Ethan is confronted by the party dog, and he basically says, look, what's going on? You've been kind of around us all night, and why are you so interested in what Sam's getting up to? He basically accuses Ethan of having a bit of a crush on Sam, and how kind of inappropriate that is. Because at this point, the party dog has basically said that he wants to take Sam back to his hotel room and, have a night with her. But Ethan's defending her and basically saying, look, you shouldn't do that, she's married. But the party dog's excuse is, well, where's her husband? But we all know that Ethan is only thinking about himself at this point. He's a very flawed character, and he's so entitled and selfish when it comes to Sam. If she wants to make the mistake of sleeping with this guy, then that's on her, but he really doesn't have anything to do with it. Eventually, Ethan manages to get hold of her after doing some really bad shit throughout the wedding. In fact, he even wrecks the wedding cake. He wrecks what looks to be like a massive speaker, and is just trying to get her attention, but doing it in the worst possible way. He even breaks a glass at one point and ends up with shards in his hand. But eventually he gets a chance to talk to Sam. He takes her outside and says, look, don't do this. Whatever you're doing with him, don't do it. Like, me and you have always had this thing, and, I don't want to give that up. And she basically tells him, look, I was waiting for you the other night. I went to that hotel, and you didn't turn up. That was on you. You begged me to be there, and then you didn't turn up. So I don't know what to do with you and this whole thing. He kisses her out in public, right outside a wedding venue where his wife is literally on the way out of the door because she is coming for a smoke. And she is taken aback by it. Before she can tell him how she actually feels about him, Lisa comes out and inquires what the hell's going on. Like, why are you guys out here? Why are you arguing? And Sam heads back into the party. She continues to ask the questions, but Ethan basically tells her, look, I'm just worried about everything that's going on. The party dog is basically trying to get with her, and I'm just trying to warn her off because I think she's being stupid and making a bad decision. She's married after all. Marriage is a massive thing for Lisa, and she heads back indoors and she essentially berates Sam in the bathroom. She talks about the sanctity of marriage and the fact that the way that the wedding party actually got together was due to an affair, and that maybe you should just get divorced if you don't want to be with that person anymore, not just sleep with someone else. So Lisa is taking the moral ground on this, and Sam is not at all. She's trying to justify her own position. They're both trying to justify their own position in the relationship that they are having with Ethan, but neither of them are actually talking about that relationship. And so eventually they all go and sit back by the table, and it's just awkward. However, with Marianne being there and her new boyfriend, or a long-term boyfriend being there, a new character in the show, he basically says, look, I'm thinking about, because of all this, the whole wedding thing, I'm thinking about asking her to marry me. Everyone is inspired by this and says, just do it, go for it. However, that night when Marianne, her boyfriend, Ethan and Lisa are all back at the house, her boyfriend asks her and she tells him no, she doesn't want that, she's never wanted that, and how could her friends even suggest such a thing? They know what she feels about all of this, so why would they suggest it? And she tells them that they're going to have to leave, find a new place, because she can't do this anymore. They're interfering with her too much, and it's not fair. So now not only have they lost potential to be parents, they've now lost their house, or at least the roof over their head. And potentially they could end up losing their own relationship due to the fact that Ethan still wants to continue being with Sam even though he really shouldn't. Episode 7, Grand Cayman. And so Lisa's company are doing a retreat to the Cayman Islands. It seems that all her hedge fund team are heading out there, and she is going to be the only woman there. She knows that she is going to absolutely hate this whole trip, and the first person she calls, instead of being Ethan, she calls Nick. While they're talking about this trip, Nick says that he's got no commitments, and he can just go. He can go with her, and they can just have a holiday together. Lisa agrees to it, and then realizes that she's going to have to invite everyone. She calls Ethan and she says, look, I've sent out an email and I just want to make sure that everyone's on board, that we can go and have this holiday and enjoy ourselves. Ethan, however, is with Max and they are trying to work out this YA novel. They still haven't managed to get anything off the ground yet, and all they know is that they're going to do something around werewolves. Sam is taking her daughter to college for the first time, and they are trying to get her into Harvard, which is where they all went. Marianne hasn't been seen since kicking Lisa and Ethan out, so Lisa knows that she's probably not going to go either. So that's it. It's going to end up being Lisa and Nick going over to the Caymans. Of course, when Max points out that, well, are you sure you're okay with this? The fact that Lisa is going away with a man she used to date. I'm not sure that information has been available to us throughout this whole series so far. But now it makes it even more interesting that she is going with him, and all the lingering looks that she's sent his way throughout the series. Ethan, however, then gets a call from Sam, and she suggests that she is going to be going to Harvard alone. Obviously, she's going to have her daughter with her, but her husband isn't going. Ethan gets the thought that maybe they could spend time together and just relive old times while at college. Max decides it might be an idea to go on the road with him and try and get this book off the ground, somewhere different, somewhere a bit more inspiring for them, because that was their college home. And so then we get two very different shots. Nick and Lisa end up at the hotel and they settle in, and Nick is trying to find some stuff for them to do. Lisa, however, has one thing in mind. After all that talk of cheating in the last episode, she literally cannot keep her hands off Nick. She takes him there and then, and it seems to be a very quick session, and basically doesn't seem worth the effort, in all fairness. And you can kind of feel like maybe she's going to start feeling guilty about all of this, and what's she going to do next? However, then we see what's going on at Harvard, and even though they aren't sleeping together, Sam and Ethan are just making googly eyes at each other the whole way. They can't help it, they keep showing their feelings for each other. Sam takes her daughter to the admissions office, and Ethan and Max go off to the library. They start researching, and eventually Max comes up with an idea for the end of this story. And as soon as they do, they're both inspired. They know exactly where this story is going to go and what it's going to do, and they couldn't be more pleased with themselves. They go and meet up with Sam and her daughter, and they go and just head around the town, going to all the old places that they used to go to. And it's kind of a nostalgia thing. This is all set to some sort of cool jazz throughout. However, it's interspersed with aggressive metal music and the fact that Nick and Lisa are sleeping together. Like, aggressively. Like, they're going at it hard. There's several different times that this happens, and they are doing it all over the room. Eventually, they end up taking a break, and we are shown the contrast to the end of both their nights. So, Lisa and Nick go downstairs and grab some food, but while they're there, that dickhead boss that Lisa has is sat down there, and he basically berates her and says that she's just as bad as he is because she's basically there cheating on her husband. Lisa gets offended and she runs off and more waddles off because of all the action she's been getting, and she goes to a gym within the hotel complex. While she's there, she ends up having a slip and fall, which looks fucking devastating. And the stunt woman, I hope she got paid well for it, because that looked like it fucking hurt. But it's that usual pratfall where you end up going too fast on the treadmill and you end up sweeping your own legs out. It looks like it's fucking vicious. She ends up in hospital and she blames Nick for all of this. Ethan, however, is with Max. Basically, he tucks him in for the night because Max is absolutely hammered, and they basically celebrate their success. The fact that they have managed to think of a concept for this whole book and managed to start actually preparing for it. Max confesses something to Ethan that essentially he and Felix always fell out over Ethan because Felix believed that Max had a thing for Ethan, and of course that's just silliness. But after Max gets into bed, he then whispers the other thing that Felix always thought about Ethan, that Ethan was having an affair. However, before Ethan can ask any more, Felix says, with Marianne, before falling asleep. Ethan is relieved because he doesn't want everyone to know about his affair that he's actually having with Sam, and that's where he's going next. He heads out, he meets Sam, and they end up going back to their old dorm where Ethan used to live, and he tells her, look, we can go into my old dorm and we can go and have a look and see if our carving is still there. However, it means breaking and entering into an actual school dorm. They do so and they find the person who's in that room now not home, but moments later they do come back and security is obviously called. Sam freaks out and says, look, basically this is the second time now that you have got me into trouble, and it's not fair. Like, every time I'm around you, I can't control myself. I do things that I shouldn't do, and I just cannot help myself around you. Nick and Lisa get into it at the hospital. She basically tells him she doesn't understand how he does it, how he does these one-night stands and all these random girls, and, you know, it's not fair. He just gets to do it guilt-free. She is feeling so guilty right now, but Nick didn't feel that way about her. He was with her in college, and he always waited for her to come back. He doesn't say it, but you can see it's written all over his face. He's hurt by what she said. He's hurt by the thought that that was just a random act. And it seems like he has been waiting for a very long time. And trust me, that is hard. Knowing that you've waited for someone for so long for them to come back into your life, and it may not happen. Thankfully for me, it did. I waited for a very long time for someone, and I always felt lost. And then they came back into my life and I don't feel lost anymore. So it's an incredible feeling, and I can only sympathise with Nick at this point because he must have been feeling devastated when he found out that she didn't want him in the way that he wanted her. He ends up leaving the compound and leaving the island, and the next morning when Lisa's arrogant boss starts giving her some shit, she basically tells him to fuck off and that she's going to be leaving the company. Sam and Ethan, however, get back to Sam's room, and Sam basically tells him, look, I'm in love with you and I can't do this. Like, I want to be with you, and we have a long way to go before that happens. He tells her that it was always an unspoken thing between the two of them, that the L word isn't something that they should use, but he basically admits that he feels the same, and it feels like parting between them is probably the best because they can't actually be with each other. They hug it out and Ethan leaves. And so going into the last episode, we've got some very interesting dynamics going on. We've got obviously Nick and Lisa being together, and the fact that Lisa has just cheated on her husband with Nick. It's against every value that she's got. She's wanted to make this marriage work, but it's just not over the course of this season. And the reason that it's not is because he's been having this 20-year affair with a woman that she tolerates, really. And so let's get into the last episode to find out what goes on. Episode 8, A Night of Surprises. Ethan and Max are ready for a big launch of their book, because it seems that Ethan has been doing a lot of work towards it, and Ethan is about to pitch it to the rest of his team. And so they go into the meeting, and just before Max can actually state it, all of a sudden another assistant runs out and says that this Wolf Trials book by a totally different author is getting ready to launch. However, that is the same name as what Ethan's book is, and so Max is confused. He's then told that he's been in meetings about this book for the last year, and essentially the pitch that he made to Ethan about the book is exactly that. It's been the same pitch that he's been getting at work. He's now basically guilty of giving Ethan an idea which has already been written by someone else. He was in the pitch meetings for everything. He starts to feel guilty about it and tells Ethan, look, maybe we can focus on something else, or maybe we can change the main character and the whole premise of the book, really, because it's quite a specific book. But Ethan obviously doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to change anything about the book. He thinks it's perfect, and he's obviously been working on it really hard. At this point, he's written around about 400 pages, so Max is worried because they obviously can't publish Ethan's book, even though he's been working on it for so long now. Ethan then goes and plays squash with Nick, and Nick's obviously sweating about the whole situation with him and Lisa. And when Lisa calls him and tells him, look, I need to tell Ethan about what's going on, Nick ends up blocking Ethan from trying to get his phone so that Lisa can speak to him. Eventually, they settle on actually talking that night when Lisa is back from the Caymans. She's on a flight at this point, and she's just about ready to actually land. Ethan suspects it's to do with him and Sam, but obviously Nick is worried that Lisa is going to tell Ethan about them two. So everyone is worried about whatever secret they've got coming out. That night is Sam's 40th birthday party, and her husband John has put on a real spectacle for this night. However, throughout the night, everyone is scrambling. Marianne finds her bunny in Sam's yard and realises that her and Ethan are still having this affair. She takes them to one side and she asks them about it, but just all night, Ethan and Lisa are trying to talk to each other about what's been going on. But each time that they do, either Nick interjects or Sam interjects, or in this case, Marianne interjects, and it's just a complete shit show. Eventually, just as they're about to speak to each other, a mentalist comes into the room and starts doing his act. As he's going around the room and he's working the crowd, he eventually gets to Ethan. He tells Ethan he knows that this guy has a big secret. However, at that point, Lisa can't take it anymore, and she stands up and she tells Ethan that she slept with Nick while they were in the Caymans. Lisa and Ethan head off into another room and start talking about what's next. He says that he forgives her for everything because obviously he knows that he's got bigger news to come. She apologises profusely and he accepts everything. However, at that point, a car, Lisa's car, starts rolling in the back garden. It's rolling towards the pool that she has out there, and we realise that earlier on in the episode when Marianne actually was teaching Sam's young daughter how to drive, she has decided to show it off to her brother and has left the car in drive. It's now slowly crawling towards this pool. Everyone runs out and tries to stop this car, but before they can, lots of other confessions come out. Max tells Ethan about the fact that he can't publish his book because it's going to be a rip-off of this other book that's coming out later on that year, and it's going to get them both into a lot of trouble. Ethan, out of pure rage, ends up punching Nick just after what Max has said, and then Max gets his foot run over. The car ends up in the pool and everyone starts laughing. Lisa can't believe how this night has gone, and she is the one who leads the way laughing. She laughs, then Ethan laughs, then everyone else starts to go along with it. Lisa then turns to Ethan and says, "You don't understand. I can't do this anymore." And right there and then, Lisa ends it with Ethan, or at least she tells him that they need a break. And that is how this season ends, and it's really good. It's such a good show. The contrast between like the sort of lightness and the darkness of the comedy is really interesting to watch, and the story of it is really good. My issue with Keegan-Michael Key's character is that I think he should have been played a little bit straighter than he is, in the fact that he is on occasion played as sort of a goofball throughout. Like when he gets tough questions, he starts doing these silly accents and things like that, and it just shows the character for a flawed human, which we all are, but in a way that he can't lie, or he feels pressure and therefore he does this stupid voice, and it's just a massive giveaway. The only thing is, like, he's got a massive secret, and that's the inconsistency. He's got this secret that he's had for a long, long time, and he doesn't do the goofball accent or anything when it comes to his life with Sam. So it's a little bit of a contrast between like how the character is being portrayed during his goofier moments and during the moments that he's cheating on his wife, essentially. But other than that inconsistency, I really like it. I really think it's a funny show, and I think everyone involved is great at what they do. It's just interesting to see the storylines and how they sort of... You're kind of riding a wave throughout. At one point you're at a high point, and then the next you're at your lowest point, because, you know, Ethan and Lisa trying to get pregnant is the high point, and then it comes back down because the next episode, and it's not even like they get the chance to play it out on screen. It's just, bam, there it is. They aren't having a baby. They couldn't do it. They couldn't complete the IVF, or, you know, it didn't take. And it's kind of heartbreaking for them. But again, you look at the way that Ethan is at the beginning of the series, where he's essentially telling Sam that he doesn't need a condom. And you're like, dude, you're trying to get your girlfriend pregnant, your wife pregnant, and you've got your mistress on the side who is obviously someone who has had kids. She's got 3, I believe, and it's just not a good look at all. As for Lisa and Nick, I like the dynamic between the two of them, and I think they're a better match, in all fairness, than Ethan and Lisa. Max's character throughout has just been a sort of supporting actor, and he's not really been that involved. I mean, he has, obviously, he's part of the core friend group, but it's not like he's got any skin in the game with anyone, really, because apart from maybe fancying Ethan, who isn't gay, there's not going to be anything for him within that structure. I suppose Marianne to some degree, but she is a straight woman, or at least a bisexual woman, so therefore she'd have plenty of skin in the game, I suppose. But it's an interesting show, and it's really, really funny at times. And yeah, I just can't wait to listen to or watch season 2. I've watched it already. I know how good it is, but I just want to really watch it again and get back into the characters, because I honestly couldn't remember if the Cayman trip happened in this season or next. So yeah, it's interesting to think that there's going to be more stuff going on in next season, and I genuinely can't remember where it goes. But as always, I will get into that very shortly. So I thank you for today, but I am done. This has been an amazing show, and I cannot wait to get into the next bit. But we've got Louder Milk coming, and we've got Miracle Workers as well. So we're going to crack on with that for this season, and we will cover the second season of this very shortly. But I thank you for listening today, and I hope you're all doing well out there. But until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye. As always, thank you for listening to this podcast, and you could really help me and the podcast by giving a like, share, subscribe on all major platforms that you listen to podcasts on. As an independent podcaster, this will just help me exponentially when it comes to actually doing more things with this podcast. I truly do enjoy this, and I absolutely love revisiting these TV shows with you guys. So any engagement from you is always welcome. and I will try and listen to all of you when you give suggestions or just tell me what you think about the podcast. But once again, thank you for listening, and until next time, I will speak to you soon. Bye.